My name's John Ruhlin, and feel very honored to be here today. I have about 10 minutes to dive into the principles of a book that I recently wrote titled Giftology. And if you're wondering why in the world those knives are out there in the lobby, did this guy accidentally take a wrong turn? Why is this guy out there talking about knives, and what does that have to do with business and scaling up? And what does gifting really have to do with business? Isn't that something you delegate to an assistant once a year at Christmas? And so, to give you guys some context of what I'm going to talk about over the next 10 minutes, I'm going to rewind 16 years ago. Anybody familiar with Cutco knives? Anybody own Cutco knives? Had a college kid come in? So, the crux of my book, 16 years ago, I grew up poor on a farm. I'm an Ohio boy, so I'm super excited that one of my clients, the Indians, are playing my other client, the Cubs. A little bit torn. Any Ohio fans in the audience? Indians? Cubs? Of course, the Buckeyes, yeah, they're kind of embarrassing after last week, to be honest. But so I grew up poor on a farm, and I wanted to pay for school. And I'd never considered myself an entrepreneur. I thought I was going to go be a doctor. And I was fortunate having to pay for school. I could either go work at Gap for $6 an hour, or I could go into a couple $100,000 worth of debt. And I didn't like either one of those options, but I found out a buddy of mine was selling these crazy knives, and so I decided if he can do it, he's a seminary major, I can at least try. So I went into the interview, wore my glasses to look smarter, wore the one tie that I had. I was a farmer's kid. I grew up milking goats every morning. Wearing ties and stuff wasn't exactly my thing. But I got hired. And fortunately, I was dating a girl at the time, and her dad was an attorney. But he seemed to be involved in everything non-attorney related in the community. He owned banks, oil wells, the real estate that he bought magically became the Walmart 2 years later. And when you're poor, you notice when people are radically generous. And so I noticed Paul was always giving things away. To give you guys an idea, he'd find a deal on noodles. He'd buy a semi-load of noodles. And literally the next Sunday, 200 people at church would end up walking away with a year's supply of noodles. I'm like, Paul, that was 20 G's in noodles. Why would you do that? That's crazy. That'd pay for a semester of school. He's like, I know, John, but did you see the smiles on their faces? I'm like, yeah, you gave them a year's supply of noodles. Who's not going to smile about that? So he was always giving things away, and I noticed every referral opportunity came his way. He never advertised. People just called him because he was so top of mind. He was always giving things away. So I remember pitching him the idea. I was dating his daughter, by the way. I thought maybe he would give away pocket knives to all of his clients. And I said, Paul, what about these pocket knives? All your clients are into hunting, fishing, outdoors. There's the CEOs of insurance companies and wealth management firms. What do you think? And he got this little twinkle in his eye, and he leaned back in his chair. He had salt and pepper hair. It was right before church at the dining room table, and he said, John, what about the paring knives? And I'm sure I had this deer in the headlights look like, you're going to give these CEOs of $100 million companies, these grown men, paring knives. I said, I'll sell you as many paring knives as you want, Paul, but why? And he said, well, I've noticed over my 30 years of being in business that if you take care of the wife and the spouse and the kids and the assistant, take care of the inner circle, everything else in business seems to take care of itself. It was a lightning bolt moment for me. I realized that it wasn't really about the knife for Paul. It was about what the knife represented, Paul was always pouring into people, and the knife was the artifact of the relationship. He was top of mind because people were always talking about him. People liked him. He knew them. He knew their assistant. He knew their kids. And so I started to apply this principle when I'm a 20-year-old in college. I would spend $200 on a carving set, which might as well have been $2 million as a college kid. But I'd engrave on it the spouse's name, the family name, and I'd put a little note inside saying, carve out 5 minutes for me, Mr. CEO of a $200 million insurance company. I promise it'll be worth your time. And I'd get the meeting. And I walk in at 20, he's 60. He's like, are you here to sell me knives? I'm like, no, I'm here to teach your 1,000 sales reps how to go after your top 10,000 clients. I'm here to help you attract referrals, not reward referrals. And he's like, I'm in. And I'd sell 1,000 sets of knives. Not because it was a great knife, although it was what it represented. And I started to apply this principle, and I started to land NASCAR as a client. And I'm a farm boy, and I'm like, this is crazy. I'm hanging out with Dale Earnhardt Jr.'s manager and whatever else, and I'm getting access to the Dolphins and the NFL. And by the time I was a senior in college, I was Cutco's largest international distributor in the history of their company. Not because I'm a salesperson, because I'm the last person you would think would be on the stage if you saw me 16 years ago. But I started to apply these radical generosity, what we call giftology now, to land some of the biggest companies in the world. We started to leverage it as a competitive advantage. And so with the last 5 minutes that I have, there's 10 core questions, I think, when you're building relationships, whether it's with an employee, whether it's with a client, whether it's with a supplier. I mean, we gift our suppliers bigger than anybody else because we don't have a business without them. We treat them like gold. And so we started to teach these 10 questions. We spoke at Google last summer. I'm like, this is insane, like a farm boy speaking at Google. What am I going to teach them? But it was amazing. By the end of the presentation, they're like feverishly writing down notes. And I'm like, they're going to buy my book. Google is going to buy my book. Like, this is crazy. And so there's 10 questions. I'm only going to get to one because of time. And the question is very similar to Pat Lencioni's message, just applied in a little bit different way. Is it personalized? Is it personalized? So about 9 years ago, EO, I just joined EO. I got recommended by somebody that owned like 20 companies, and I barely qualified, but I joined. And I remember sitting beside Vern at the first event I went to, is out in Las Vegas. And I'm like, I don't belong here. Like, this is crazy. There's like $500 million company CEOs and whatever else. And I remember hearing this guy named Cameron Herold speak. And it was like standing room only. And I'm like, this guy like ran a junk company. Like, that's the most unsexy business in the world. Like, how is he getting on Oprah? And I remember, like, maybe you've had moments like this where you're like, if that guy could be a client or a mentor or an advocate or a referral partner, it could change my company forever. And so I waited in line afterwards. I'm like, I need to get this guy on my team. And so I remember waiting an hour. I went up to him. I said, hey, Cameron, you're coming to Cleveland. What are you going to do when you're in town? He said, I'm not sure. I'm probably going to go shopping. I'm like, maybe this is my angle. Because I'd invited him to a Cavs game and to dinner. But you could tell, like, he said yes out of obligation. Probably like a lot of your clients. They say, yeah, we'll go to another steak dinner. Yeah, we'll go to another round of golf. But it wasn't going to be the wow thing that was going to get him in my corner. And I said, where are you going to shop at? He said, Brooks Brothers. On the spot, I said, I'm a Jose Bank guy. What's your shirt size? I want to send you a shirt. And he looks at me a little bewildered, like, does this dude have a man crush on me? Like, that's a really weird question to ask somebody within 2 minutes of meeting them. But he answered. I said, what else are you going to do? He said, nothing. Well, great, we'll grab dinner. So I pitched this idea to my business partner, who's the CFO, COO of our company. And he's like, John, you're crazy. No, we can't do that. We can't afford it. No way. So the day that he's flying in, he starts texting me, my flight's delayed, I'm not sure if I'm going to make it. I'm like, Rod, I'll take it out of my draw if it doesn't work. We have to do this. He said, okay. So I drive up to Brooks Brothers, put down the guy's shirt size, camera size, and I said, I want one of everything in your new fall collection. All of your sweaters, jackets, pants, shoes, belts, everything. And the junior sales associate's like, you're joking, right? I'm like, I'm pouring with sweat because I'm nervous as all get out. He's like, I said, I wish I was, but no. Takes them an hour, they ring everything up, and I see the total. I pull out the Amex, I'm like, please go through. Because it was $7,000. It's like, oh, this better work. Speed over to the Ritz. Asked for the GM, I said, one of the top business coaches in the entire world is coming in. Do you want to do something amazing for them? Of course, what's he say? It's the Ritz. I said, yes. So we merchandised his whole hotel room to look like a Brooks Brothers store. Jackets, sweaters there, pants, all merchandise. And I wait downstairs with my business partner for Cameron to arrive. And he gets in, and you could tell, like, he was thinking, why did I ever agree to this dinner and a ball game? He's like, it's like travel day from hell. I said, Cameron, go take a shower, do whatever you need to do, come back down whenever. Even if we miss half the game, it doesn't matter. And I'm nervously, like, drinking like a bourbon on the rocks, probably a triple. It's like, please work. He comes back down like 25 minutes later, and he's glowing. He said, John, I've had a lot of people do amazing things for me. I've had people in Dubai, and some of the biggest CEOs in the world do cool stuff for me. I thought the Four Seasons was amazing because they had a bottle of water and a towel waiting for me. He said, whatever you want to talk about for as long as you want to talk about it, I'm all ears. I've never had anybody treat me that way. Now, I followed up with that. I started sending a block. I sent a block to his house about a month later. And every month, I'd send different knives. Hey, thanks for carving out the time, whatever else, for like 18 straight months. Fill it out with his wife's name on it, whatever else. And over the next 8 years, he's continued to mention me in books, on stage. He's opened up doors with the president of Starbucks. You name it, if he's a client, he's referred them to me. He's done things for me that $10 million worth of advertising couldn't do for me. Just completely blown me away. Now, you may be saying, like, John, how could we ever do that? We can't spend $7,000 on all of our clients or all of our employees. Maybe that's true, maybe it's not. One of the things we do for all of our employees, a lot of them are working moms, we pay to have their houses cleaned every other week. It costs us $2,000 a person. And I never lose an employee because I make their lives easier. I personalize it to what they would want, things that they would never do for themselves. And because of that, that $2,000 gives me $20,000 worth of equity. They tell all their friends, even the people at Google were like, John, half joking, half serious, they're like, you hiring? I'm like, I'm a small firm out of Ohio, and I have Google employees, half joking, like, it's a pretty cool perk. Now, the fun thing about this story is the $7,000, first off, Cameron came to me and said, I can't take all the clothes. I'm either going to write you a check for 50% more than I think they cost, or you're going to tell me. Because what you did for me, the personalization, that you cared about me as a human being, blew me away. I can't let you pay for the clothes as well. So that entire experience cost me nothing. And it's reaped me millions of dollars in rewards. And so as I wrap up here, there's 9 other principles. You can go check out the book Jade and Kendall, or like, they're hustling books for me already. I went and talked to them this morning. They're like, we'd like a signed copy of the book. I'm like, if you sell my books out faster than anybody else's, a signed copy's on its way. So even before I spoke, they're like, half the books are gone. I'm like, Vern, you raised some amazing kids. Like, this is awesome. So the books are probably going to be gone. If you email me, John@Ruhlin Group, Ruhlin, email me right now, I'll send you a free PDF of the entire book. It's our playbook of how we've landed the largest companies in the world and how we've attracted some of the best employees in the world. There's a lot of, people have financial plans, they have operations plans, marketing plans. What's your relationship action plan? Who are the most important people in your world that without them, what are the suppliers, the investors, the mentors, the circles of influence, the clients, that without them, you would not be a company right now? And I would challenge you to ask yourself, not what's the least I can do, but what's the most I can do? That's what my mentor, that's why Paul was the most successful person in our community, small country attorney in the heart of Amish country of all places. He was radically generous in ways that nobody else would be. And because of that, he reaped 100x return on any of his investments. You don't need my firm. We do gifting for the Cubs and whatever else. We develop these strategies. You can do it on your own if you want to. If you want to put the intent behind it, it could be a game changer for whatever industry. I don't care if you're a $10 million company or a $10 billion company. We've worked with all industries. The principles are timeless, and they work. Thank you so much for your attention. Vern?
John Ruhlin.